And let me tell you a little bit about our guest today, Mayor Brandon Scott. He's the 52nd mayor of Baltimore, and he's working hard to end gun violence, restore the public trust in government, and do his part to change Baltimore for the better. He was unanimously elected president of the Baltimore City Council in May of 2019. As council president, he developed and released the first ever City Council presidential legislative agenda focused on building safer, stronger communities and cleaning up city government. He was first elected in 2011 at the age of 27 and is one of the youngest people ever elected to the Baltimore City Council. And during his first term on the council, he has emerged as a leading voice in reducing violence in Baltimore and reinstated council oversight of the Baltimore Police Department by holding quarterly meetings. Mayor Scott is a rising star in politics, member of the Young Elected Officials Network, served as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for YEO's America's Cabinet, and served as the chair of the National League of Cities Large Cities Council. He's a community leader, a public servant, and lifelong resident of Baltimore City, a very proud Baltimorean. He's a graduate of Mervo High School and St. Mary's College of Maryland, and he lives in Baltimore's Frankford neighborhood in northeast Baltimore. Please welcome everybody, Mayor Brandon Scott. You know, when we think about it, having the mayor here today, it brought me back to one of our first meetings that we had downtown when we started the CEO Club. We had Mayor Kurt Smoke, and it was a great meeting back then, and we're really thrilled to have you here today with us, Mayor.
Good to be here.
Mayor, you're one of the youngest mayors in Baltimore City history. What do you think resonated with the people of Baltimore that got you elected, and how did you achieve that?
Well, I think I always get asked this question a lot, obviously, and I always think it's a little funny for me because I think it had nothing to do with my age. And the irony is you talked about that I was elected at 27. So I was elected at 27. And the first time anyone ever said anything about my age and running for office is when I ran for mayor, right? No one said that when I was that young. What resonated with the residents of Baltimore is that literally they watched me grow up in my service, right? It wasn't, well, we're going to see if this person is going to work hard. We're going to see if this person is going to be dedicated to the city. We're going to see if this person knows how to work with people from different backgrounds. They knew it because they watched it. And what we did through our campaign, and we campaigned on the same things that I campaigned on when I ran for council, on showing a new way forward for the city. Because it is different for me than any other mayor, right? As a gentleman who works for me now, who used to be an educator and was an educator, Dr. Bunley, who heads up my mayor's office of African American male engagement, who said to me, and now I say to everyone, because I never thought about it like this, it's different for me than anyone else that's ever sat in my chair. Because no disrespect to the folks that came before me, they either weren't from Baltimore originally or were older, right? So they didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They didn't live the violence every day. They didn't have the gun pointed in their face. They didn't lose friends. They didn't duck bullets. They didn't go to schools that were severely dilapidated. And when you have that lived experience on top of the government experience, it allowed me to run a campaign that showed folks about how I can connect with every single part of Baltimore, right? When you look at the coalition of folks that voted for us, they were across the gamut because people bought into that story, into that what we're trying to do, but also they already knew that this is something that I was dedicated for because I've been in City Hall since I was 23 years old. Most people would say that that's crazy to just go fresh, waste your 20s, waste your 30s, waste your 40s, trying to tackle something as difficult as making Baltimore's government an efficient and effective, equitable operating entity.
Very interesting, Mayor, but give us a little background if you could. What motivated you to get into politics, from the beginning? And what were the goals you set for yourself along the way?
Yeah, I think when I always say this, my parents will tell you that I said I wanted to be mayor when I was 5 years old. I remember the story of what was happening, and there was two things that, and it's really about growing up. So I grew up in Park Heights. So imagine growing up in a neighborhood that is literally the center of the world for the third Saturday in May when Preakness comes, and every other day of the year, you're not even treated as human. That has a deep changing effect on you. You're either going to accept that that's okay for, on that Saturday that someone could literally pee in the middle of Park Heights and Belvedere and no one say a word to them. But every other day of the year, if I'm just walking past there, I can just be sat on the curb and put in handcuffs just because, right? When you see what happens in that neighborhood on that Saturday, but then when one of my friends is killed, no one cares. You're either going to accept that that's the way that things are, or you're going to do something to change it. And I chose to change it solely because I felt like no one, right? With the exception of Congressman Elijah Cummings, no elected official ever came to my neighborhood. They didn't even bother, even though both my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, all of these folks were super voters. They didn't even bother to send mailers, right? The only time they reached out to my family is when they wanted political donations from my family's business. That's it. We were invisible. That's what pushed me, because I was always, and my mom said infamously when I asked after one night, I lived next to this apartment complex known as the Ranch. Many people thought we called it the Ranch because it had ranch-style fencing. We called it the Ranch because this was around the time the movie Tombstone came out, and it was like the OK Corral every night. There was shooting every night there. And I said, why doesn't anyone care? And I don't know if it was out of frustration, or I don't know if it was out of wanting me to just shut up, but my mom just looked at me calmly and said, well, no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save Park Heights. If you want to do it, see it happen, you got to do it yourself. So I set that goal out at an early age, but then I knew that I had to handle myself in a way that would not allow anything to get in the way of me reaching that goal, right? Because the truth is, by numbers, I'm not supposed to be here. Technically, I'm not even supposed to be alive, right? But I also know by numbers, young men that are my color do not make it to this position. So that means I couldn't do a lot of the things that my friends were doing, right? That's why I focus so much on my sports and my education. This is why I've never had a drink of alcohol in my life. This is why I try to treat myself and treat people in a different way, because I want to be the beacon of example so that many more young folk that come from experiences like mine will get this same opportunity.
And he was a track star, folks, 4:37 mile in high school. It's pretty darn good, I got to tell you that.
I think I can still get under 5. If I train hard enough, I think I can still get under 5. I might set that.
We have a bet on this
I might set that goal for myself at 38. Try to see if I can get under 5 minutes.
I'll hold the stopwatch. Mayor, you're definitely a survivor. You previously ran for lieutenant governor with my good friend Jim Shea, former chairman of Venable Law Firm. That was not successful. How were you able to bounce back from that?
Well, for me, I think I don't either win or lose, right? I either win or I learn, right? And I learn a lot. When you're running a statewide race, and Solicitor Shea, as he is now, Jim is now, as fate would have it, now I role to reverse. I'm the boss and Jim's the